What if I told you three British bluesmen conquered America faster than their own countrymen? They played 365 days a year, then watched their families forget their faces. A founding member fled after achieving platinum success. Their slide guitarist quit rather than play one more pop song. And their leader toured with terminal cancer, refusing to stop until his final breath. 10 million albums, but the boogie they created devoured everything. This is Foghat's story, from Arena Kings to Burnout and Breakdown. It's London, 1971. The British blues scene that had birthed Cream, Fleetwood Mac, and Led Zeppelin was starting to feel restrictive. Three members of the respected blues rock band, Savoy Brown, vocalist and guitarist Dave Lonesome Dave, bassist Tony Stevens, and drummer Roger Earl, had reached a crossroads. They'd paid their dues in the smoky clubs of England, but they were hungry for something louder, heavier, more uncompromising. Savoy Brown had given them legitimacy in the blues world, but legitimacy wasn't enough. They wanted to shake stadiums. They wanted to make the kind of rock and roll that rattled your chest cavity and left your ears ringing for days. And they recognized something crucial. That sound didn't belong in Britain anymore. It belonged across the Atlantic, where FM radio was exploding and American audiences were hungry for raw, honest rock. The decision was made. All three walked away from Savoy Brown simultaneously, a deliberate act of professional secession. They weren't just leaving a band, they were leaving an entire scene behind. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The first order of business was finding a guitarist who could match their vision. They recruited Rod Price, a bottleneck slide guitar wizard who'd played with Black Cat Bones. Price's technique wasn't just proficient, it was distinctive, unmistakable. That slide guitar would become the sonic signature that defined everything they were about to build. But they needed a name. They didn't want to sound serious or folky. They wanted something that captured the irreverent, unpretentious spirit of the music they were chasing. The answer came from Peverett's childhood. He and his brother John had invented a nonsense word during a game similar to Scrabble. That word was Foghat. It came from a cartoon drawing, a childhood joke, something utterly meaningless. And that was perfect. By choosing a name rooted in playfulness rather than blues credibility, they were making a statement. This wasn't going to be another self-serious British blues band. This was going to be fun, loud, and unapologetically American in spirit. Their self-titled debut, produced by Dave Edmunds, dropped in 1972. The album peaked at a modest number 127 on the Billboard 200. By any traditional measure, it looked like a commercial disappointment, but numbers don't tell the whole story. That debut album was about to unlock something far more valuable than chart position. It was about to make them kings of a brand new medium.
I just wanna make love to you.
The early 1970s witnessed a cultural revolution that doesn't get talked about enough. The rise of FM radio. For decades, AM radio had dominated, playing tight 3-minute singles designed for maximum commercial appeal. But FM stations were different. They offered what was called underground or freeform radio. Disc jockeys weren't chained to rigid playlists. They could choose records based on artistic merit. They could play long tracks, deep cuts, extended jams, the kind of music AM would never touch. For Foghat, this was oxygen. Their cover of Willie Dixon's I Just Want to Make Love to You from that debut album received considerable airplay on these powerful new FM rock stations. It became their calling card, their introduction to American audiences. And here's what mattered. This wasn't a manufactured hit pushed by a label. This was organic discovery. Kids were hearing Foghat on their local rock station, turned up loud in their cars and telling their friends. For the men who grew up in this era, that experience was sacred. Your FM station was yours. The DJ was someone you trusted. When they played a band like Foghat, it felt like a secret you were in on. Drummer Roger Earl later confirmed that, unlike some bands who might have exploited their source material, Foghat always made sure Willie Dixon was fully credited and received royalties. This wasn't just legal obligation, it was respect. They understood they were inheriting a tradition, and they honored it. The band's label and management recognized they had lightning in a bottle, and they moved with ruthless efficiency. Between 1972 and 1974, Foghat released 4 albums in just 3 years, their self-titled debut, a second self-titled album known as Rock and Roll and Rock and Roll Outlaws. That second album, Rock and Roll, went gold in 1973, certifying 500,000 units sold. This blistering pace meant they lived on the road. They slept on buses, they played clubs, theaters, small arenas, anywhere that would have them, night after night after night. The grind was already beginning, but nobody was complaining yet. They were building something real, one sweaty club at a time. The machine was working, but every machine has a breaking point. By 1974, the relentless touring schedule that had made Foghat successful began to extract its price. Founding bassist Tony Stevens, worn down by the endless cycle of travel, performance, and exhaustion, made a devastating decision. He quit. Just walked away from the band he'd co-founded, right as they were on the verge of their biggest breakthrough. Stevens had been there from the beginning. He'd left Savoy Brown for this dream. He'd endured the early struggles, the van tours, the small paychecks, and just as the dream was about to become real, he couldn't take another mile. The band was preparing to record what would become their defining album, and their bassist was gone. But they had an accidental solution. Their producer, Nick Jameson, stepped in to play bass for the recording sessions. Jameson wasn't just filling a gap. He became a crucial creative force in shaping what came next. Fool for the City was released in September 1975, and it changed everything. The album went platinum. It peaked at number 23 on the Billboard 200, but the real triumph was the single, Slow Ride. If you were alive in 1975, you remember where you were the first time you heard that intro. That guitar riff was instant, unmistakable, perfect. The song was largely credited to Jameson's arranging genius, though Lonesome Dave wrote it. The three of them, Peverett, Earl, and Jameson, shaped that iconic introduction together, crafting something that felt both inevitable and completely original. Slow Ride peaked at number 20 on the Billboard Hot 100 in late 1975 and early 1976. It became the highway anthem of a generation. You heard it on every FM station. It was the sound of freedom, of youth, of possibility. Foghat had arrived, but the cost of that arrival was already written in Tony Stevens' absence. The road had claimed its first casualty. It wouldn't be the last. After Jameson departed, bassist Craig McGregor joined in 1976, providing the solid foundation for what would become Foghat's greatest commercial triumph. In August 1977, they released Foghat Live, recorded primarily at the Dome Arena in Henrietta, New York. This album became their best-selling record by a massive margin, achieving double platinum certification. Their biggest studio album had gone platinum. Their live album went double platinum. The audience didn't just want Foghat. They wanted the live experience, the extended jams, the raw energy that couldn't be captured in a studio. The 8-minute version of Slow Ride on that live album proved what the band had always known. Their power wasn't in 3-minute radio edits. It was in the communion between band and audience, in the extended groove that took you somewhere and left you changed. By the mid-70s, Foghat was playing nearly 365 days a year. They were one of the biggest touring acts on the planet, selling out arenas from coast to coast. This was the dream realized. Platinum records, sold-out shows, fans who knew every word, success beyond anything they'd imagined back in those London clubs. But drummer Roger Earl later revealed the human cost with brutal honesty. He recalled that intense touring phase, contrasting it with their later, more manageable schedule. He remembered coming home from the road only to have his kids ask, "Who's that funny-looking man over there?" His own children didn't recognize him. That's the story that never makes the album covers or the concert posters. The wives waiting at home, the kids growing up without fathers, the birthdays missed, the school plays never attended, the slow erosion of everything that wasn't the band. These men were living their dream, and their dream was devouring their lives. Even as they celebrated, fractures were forming. Their next studio album, Stone Blue, released in 1978, peaked at number 35 and maintained their classic sound. But Roger Earl later described the recording process as a difficult record to do, noting that the producer was pretty weird. Behind the platinum sales and sold-out arenas, the pressure was mounting. The creative process was becoming strained. The endless cycle of record tour was grinding them down. The machine was still running, but the engine was starting to overheat. The late 70s brought a seismic shift to the American music landscape. Disco exploded. New wave arrived with its synthesizers and skinny ties. The arena rock that had dominated the decade was suddenly yesterday's news. Radio programmers were looking for something different, something modern. And record labels, terrified of being left behind, started demanding their artists change. Foghat sales began to slip. Boogie Motel in 1979 held steady at number 35. But the pressure was building. The label wanted hits. They wanted radio play. They wanted the band to adapt to the new market or risk irrelevance. In 1980, Foghat released Tight Shoes, and it represented a dramatic shift. The album leaned into a new wave-influenced pop direction in a desperate attempt to stay relevant. The single Stranger in My Hometown only reached the number 81. The album peaked at 106 on the Billboard 200, a catastrophic drop from their previous success. The audience that had made them stars rejected this new direction immediately, and more importantly, so did the man whose sound had defined them. Rod Price, the slide guitarist whose bottleneck technique had been Foghat's sonic signature since the beginning, was done. He'd grown profoundly unhappy with the constant touring schedule, but the breaking point was the band's sharp shift towards a more new wave-influenced pop direction. In November 1980, Price quit. The man who had created their sound, who had made Slow Ride and every other classic track unmistakably Foghat, walked away rather than betray what they'd built. He couldn't tolerate the artistic compromise. He couldn't watch them chase trends and abandon the boogie that had made them legends. Price's departure was the end of the classic Foghat sound. What followed was a slow, painful decline. Girls to Chat and Boys to Bounce in 1981 peaked at 92. Their final album, Zigzag Walk, in 1983, barely scraped the charts at 192. The numbers told the story. Abandoning their core sound hadn't saved them. It had destroyed them. The audience didn't want new wave Foghat. They wanted the boogie. And without Rod Price's slide guitar, that boogie was gone. By 1984, even Lonesome Dave Peverett had left. The classic lineup was finished. The dream was over. The years following the classic lineup's collapse were marked by various incarnations of Foghat, with drummer Roger Earl keeping the name alive through sheer determination. He formed groups like the Knee Tremblers, refusing to let the music die, even when the original band had splintered. Then something unexpected happened. In 1993, the film Dazed and Confused prominently featured Slow Ride, introducing Foghat to an entirely new generation and solidifying the track as the quintessential soundtrack to 70s nostalgia. Coinciding with this cultural validation, producer Rick Rubin and others encouraged the original classic lineup, Peverett, Earl, Price, and Stevens, to reunite. In 1993 it happened. The reunion became real, and they began touring extensively, releasing Return of the Boogeymen in 1994.
When I was stone blue, rock and roll show ahead.
For fans who had watched the band fracture and fade, this was a miracle. The boogie was back. The brotherhood was restored. Everything that had been broken was whole again. But time is undefeated. Lonesome Dave Peverett was diagnosed with cancer, but he refused to leave the road. He continued to tour and write even as his body was failing him. He completed his final tour after receiving months of intensive chemotherapy and radiation treatments. A man facing his own mortality, his body ravaged by cancer and chemotherapy, still climbing on stage night after night to deliver that boogie to the people who'd followed him for decades. On February 7th, 2000, Lonesome Dave Peverett died from kidney cancer. But he died having fulfilled his personal mantra, the philosophy that had driven him his entire career. I'm gonna roll till I'm old. I'm gonna rock till I drop. He did exactly that. He rocked until his body gave out. He gave everything to the music, right up until his final breath. Today, Roger Earl remains the sole founding member, continuing to perform and record new music. The man who once came home to children who didn't recognize him is still out there, still playing the boogie, still honoring the legacy. The enduring legacy of Foghat isn't measured only in platinum certifications or chart positions. It's measured in the timeless power of songs like Slow Ride, which continues to be played on classic rock radio, featured in films and video games, discovered by new generations who feel that same visceral thrill their fathers felt in 1975. Foghat's story is the story of working-class dreamers who succeeded beyond measure and paid a price that can't be calculated. Tony Stevens walked away when success became unbearable. Rod Price walked away when artistic compromise became intolerable. Lonesome Dave played until cancer took him. These weren't rock stars chasing glamour. These were craftsmen who loved the boogie so much they let it consume them. Foghat's music isn't nostalgia. It's a piece of your youth that never died. It's proof that the things that mattered then still matter now. Foghat proved that the loudest engines burn the hottest, and the hottest fires consume everything. They sold millions, conquered arenas, and became the soundtrack to American freedom. But the road that made them legends also broke them, claimed their families, their health, their brotherhood. Yet Lonesome Dave's final defiance reminds us that some spirits refuse to quit. The boogie may have cost them everything, but it gave us something eternal. What's your Foghat memory? Drop it in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories of rock's greatest triumphs and tragedies.